Good afternoon, and welcome to Maximizing Tourism Opportunities During a Pandemic. My name is Lisa Smith, and I am the Executive Director for an organization called the Northeast Oklahoma Regional Alliance, otherwise known as NORA. And we are a 501c3 covering 14 counties in Northeast Oklahoma. And our whole mission is to bring together businesses, communities, educators, economic development leaders, and other stakeholders, our tourism folks, our chambers, bring everybody together to collaborate to grow our region economically. So my background is I live here in Muskogee, I live in the region, and this is probably my 22nd year in the economic development community, although I've worked in various places across different types of industry. So I started my career here in Muskogee as the Economic Development Director for what was then called Muskogee Development Corporation, and then moved on after 4 to 5 years, moved on and worked for the State Department of Commerce as a rural development specialist for Northeast Oklahoma. Spent 10 years doing that, and then decided, since my children were growing up on me so fast, that maybe it was time to get off the road and come a little closer to home. And so I worked for a bit at Indian Capital Technology Center as an industrial coordinator, trying to help people gain the skills they needed to advance their careers. And after I did that, then I ran the Lake Area United Way, covering Muskogee and Cherokee counties. And that was all prior to me starting as the executive director of NORA. So coming to you today with information from probably a little bit higher level, but I'm hoping to help you understand some different tools, things that I've learned. I myself am a nonprofit here, and one of our focuses is in tourism. So I'm taking everything that I have learned over the past few months and trying to apply it and share that information to help us all maximize opportunities for tourism and opportunities for our nonprofit organizations. During the presentation, I'd like to direct you to the bottom of your screen. There is a Q&A button. So if you have a question, please park it there, click on the Q&A button, and we'll do our best to address that throughout the presentation. And we can do Q&A at the end as well. So this is, I'll be honest, this is relatively a new thing for me, online conferencing. I've never actually presented online before. So I really enjoy interaction. I enjoy teaching. And so this is a little bit different, but please feel free to use that Q&A button, and I'll do my best to address it and make this as interactive as possible. So what do we know basically about our whole situation? In today's presentation, I want to kind of address two facets of tourism. First, sharing information on how travel is being impacted, particularly with this pandemic. And then second, from a general nonprofit organizational view. What are some things that you can do? What are some tools and tips and tricks that you can apply to your nonprofit to help you keep your mission going and help people get engaged in your cause in the tourism realm? How do you, so many of us rely on foot traffic to raise the money for our advance our cause. So how does that look like now? It looks really, really different. So what we're going to do is just kind of try to go through some of the tools and hopefully get creative throughout this presentation on how you can keep people engaged in the work that you're doing. So what do we know about the travel industry? What's occurred? Oops, excuse me. We're going to go right back. 1 second there. Okay, here's what we know about the travel industry. So obviously it's drastically changed travel patterns due to COVID-19, and just some projections, and these are heartbreaking, honestly. Nationally, through the end of 2020, we're predicting a $505 billion loss in the travel industry, and an $881 billion loss in federal, state, and local taxes. And we're not looking at a recovery to even start to happen until 2024. So then these are national numbers, and the hospitality and tourism sector here in Northeast Oklahoma has been drastically impacted as well. And I feel it will continue to lag behind other parts of the country. That's what we typically see. And for Northeast Oklahoma in particular, 2 years ago, travel spending in Oklahoma had increased by 7.3% since 2017, and even more, it's increased in Oklahoma 29% since 2010. For our state alone, it has generated $9.6 billion in direct spending as of 2018. So it supported 103,000 jobs, and it's actually our state's third largest export industry. And we really feel that, especially in Northeast Oklahoma, where so much of our economy is based on tourism and hospitality and the travel industry. So those are some dire numbers. And, these kinds of numbers, as I'm sure they have kept me up at night thinking about how are we going to sustain? How are we going to move forward? So many of our friends and family here work in the tourism and hospitality industry. Our organizations depend on those dollars to keep going. So it's really put us in a serious predicament. So what does it kind of look like as we're moving through here? Recent information, there is always a silver lining, and I want to leave. I don't want to leave you with doom and gloom. So the silver lining comes at the end of the presentation, but there's a destination analysis report as of August 17th. Pandemic-related safety concerns have dropped and are kind of getting to the point where they're the level that we saw at mid-June. When the pandemic started, we were seeing mass drops in travel. People absolutely were not traveling. So the Americans are a little bit more optimistic that the pandemic won't, let's put it this way, less Americans are feeling that the pandemic will worsen. So they're having a more positive attitude. They're kind of getting used to it. And 57% of communities don't necessarily want visitors yet, but this is the lowest percentage since the week of June 15th. So the positive part of that is that for the first time since June 29th, the percentage of those who would be happy seeing an ad promoting tourism to their community has exceeded the percent who would be unhappy. So people are getting a little more comfortable with the numbers and the guidelines, and are starting to think about opening their communities back up and their tourism and travel attractions. So that's positive. That's moving in the right direction. 30% say that respondents to the survey say they would be up for taking a flight, but still many are nervous, and most approve travel restrictions enacted by certain states. Of course, here in Oklahoma, and it's different across different communities and different states, geopolitical boundaries. Here in Oklahoma, we have no travel restrictions, but a lot of states, especially East and West Coast states, do at this point. So one of the biggest things about travel that we've seen is people are hesitant to travel, since they really, it's very unclear about the restrictions. What kinds of quarantines would be established if they're going to travel? What kinds of rules do the localities have? Even here across the region, it varies drastically, just traveling from community to community. Some communities have mask mandates. Some don't. Some businesses do, some don't. And it makes it a little difficult when you don't know what to expect, and you don't know how to navigate this as a tourist or as somebody who wants to visit. So 40% are still not feeling safe about traveling anywhere outside their home communities, and 25% are not sure if visitors are welcome at the ultimate destination. So where do you go to look, and how do you plan travel safety, and how do you plan to travel safely? And how do you do that? Are you good doing that locally, or are you good doing that nationally? There's a lot of questions. And a big part of that, addressing that for your organization, is being very, very clear on how you communicate that message. As you're planning, many of you are thinking about planning, maybe reopening, or maybe doing a different business model altogether. Want to share a great resource for you. This is a good source. This is from arrivalist.com. This is a good source of information for how people are traveling day to day. So it's called the United States Daily Travel Index, and they are tracking, with this tool, they are tracking data on how and where people are traveling and how far they're going. And they've been doing this travel index since 2020, and this is strictly travel by car. The research shows that many people are traveling by vehicle. Obviously, for obvious reasons with the pandemic, they feel safer traveling. If they have to travel by vehicle, by car is their preferred method. And the research also shows that people are staying closer to where they live instead of taking those big cross-country trips. So using this data on here and monitoring it daily might help you plan on who to target. As you're developing your tourist attraction or promoting your community, you may want to shift who you're targeting to reflect more people closer to home, instead of where you traditionally may have try to attract visitors from out of state. Maybe focus on people who are driving, that their drive time is relatively closer than what you traditionally have. So while this shows daily travel over all distances, you can kind of see where it's picking up. We don't see very many negatives. Over there on the East Coast, it's drastically picked up. And we're hearing more and more about how people are getting more comfortable after they had places like Michigan, places like New York. They had a major shutdown where people couldn't travel in and out. But that's starting to make a rebound, and you kind of see as you get further west to the central part of the states, that's a little slower, and that's to be expected. But this is a great source for you to try to plan on who you want to target, where people are kind of driving and traveling to, and how to spend your marketing dollars to the best ability to optimize visitors. So I've seen lots of examples of this here in Northeast Oklahoma. One example on the kind of channels, the NBC, ABC, and CBS channels, recently started seeing advertising, kind of like what we talked about before, that the tourism industry is trying to kind of make a little bit of a comeback and people are more open to it. And I think that's probably the reason I noticed this ad. But here from where I'm at, Eureka Springs, Arkansas, is about a 3.5-hour drive. And they had an ad on TV the other day promoting 2 of their hotels. And it promoted the safety component of that, and is very clearly marketed towards a certain radius of people, probably a 3-hour radius out of Eureka Springs. So I am starting to notice that. And the Eureka Springs commercial was for the Crescent Hotel and the 1905 Basin Park Hotel. And so I think it's really trying to get people to start thinking, get comfortable and thinking about moving around again. This graph really depicts some positive information, but as we move forward into the fall, nothing's really certain. If only we had a crystal ball. So this is a worldwide map, and the CDC.gov coronavirus website is a very, very useful tool for getting the latest information on where we're at with coronavirus. But you can see, even right now, even as of last week, when I looked at this graph, August 24th, I believe, is the date on this, everything is still in a high risk area. So this is the whole, with the exception, I think there's one little blue country over there in Asia that is not, but everything else is high risk right now. And this data is updated on a daily basis. We'd like to see this improve, but it's not at this point in time. So this is kind of where we're at. This is also data from the CDC website. And really, this is where I like to go when I'm making any kind of plans for promoting an event or trying to attract, or when I'm sharing information with communities about what to do next. The news varies so widely, and keeping up with local information is important as you're positioning yourself and earning the trust of those who may be visiting you. So this monitors, the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, monitors and updates this information on a daily basis. And as you're planning and as you're communicating with your visitors, I would also suggest to check your state health department, whether it's here in Oklahoma or other parts of the nation. Check that on a regular basis for the most up-to-date information. And that information is going to help you develop and communicate kind of a risk mitigation strategy or plan. We're going to talk about that here in just a little bit, tools for risk management, and also talk more about gaining consumer confidence and gaining patron confidence through communication tactics. So I'm going to back this up a little bit. We've talked a little bit about the travel industry, and it sounds like it's kind of dim and gloom, and we're all tired of hearing that. We wish we could go back to a year ago. I think about how much things have changed in just one short year, and I'll be honest, it's kind of been a moment of grieving, especially in our areas, our nonprofit work, our tourism. We rely so heavily on people. And we're most likely people. We enjoy to share and be around people. So this has been really difficult. And I share the travel information, and I share that types of information just because I believe it's going to be a while before we get back to normal, pre-pandemic. And it maybe a while, things have completely altered. So it's important to understand the overall climate and the overall picture before we start talking about what to do about it as an organization. So I'm going to back it up a little bit and talk about nonprofit organizations in general, and some kind of tools and tricks you can apply throughout your organization, and hopefully keep folks engaged in the work you're doing. So one of the examples I've seen that have been fantastic was the Cowboy Hall of Fame Museum in Oklahoma City. Posted a series of I think Facebook and Instagram photos where they had their security guard going around and doing little short clips and videos, and he was posting that on a daily basis. He wasn't really sure how to use social media, but he was figuring out as he was going, and boy, that reached a huge audience. And he even, I forget the gentleman's name, the security guard's name, but Tim, I believe is his name. And he even made the national news for his ability to, his kind of just rusty ability to present what was going on in the walls of his museum as everybody else had left. So nonprofit organizations, many tourism and community outreach and development groups are nonprofit organizations. Social and physical distancing has impacted our organization's ability to raise funds through events. Many of us rely on that foot traffic, and many of us rely on fundraising events to increase our revenue to keep our operations going. Additionally, economic distress through job loss may have impacted donors' ability to monetarily give to your organization. So donors are feeling uncertain. They've had to tighten their purse strings. They're not as able to contribute to your organization maybe as they were before. But the hard part of it is there's a lot of nonprofits, certain types of nonprofits that are needed more now than ever before. And lots of those aren't tourism related, but you're looking at food banks, childcare, health clinics. Those types of nonprofits are really seeing a boom right now. But it's for us, it's not as impactful. So it's important to remember your target audience as we're going about moving to opening our organizations or moving to ask people to come back in. And it's keep in mind, although anybody can get COVID-19, elders and adults over 60, as well as people with heart and lung disease or diabetes are at more risk. So as you target your audience and start to engage with the public, make sure you remember these populations and have a safety plan in place for them. Which leads me to my next slide, safety first. You saw from the earlier slides, people are still a little, the majority of people are still a little iffy about how they're going to re-engage in the public and re-engage in tourism activities and travel. So the first thing you can do as an organization is take care of your own organization, take care of your own health, take care of your staff and your volunteers and your board members' health. So the first step is to develop a step-by-step crisis reopening plan. And this type of plan is not only useful for communication with staff and volunteers and board members, but it's also a great tool for communication ahead of time on identifying how you might be able to shift or alter your programs and services. These crisis response plans are also incredibly, I believe that every nonprofit or every organization, regardless if you're nonprofit, tourism, whatever, everyone should have a step-by-step crisis plan. We live in a wild world now where we are seeing more and more hurricanes, more and more natural disasters, flooding, those types of things. So while we're in this pandemic, it gives us an opportunity to step back and look at our organization and think about the steps that we need to be put into place. And the time spent on developing a crisis response plan will be beneficial in the future as you start moving forward. And when we do open, we have another crisis, national crisis. Maybe your community has a tornado, or maybe you're in a community that is hit by, your organization is impacted by another natural disaster. It could even be something like a computer hack. I know I've seen organizations that have been completely dismantled because their computer systems have been hacked into, and having a step-by-step crisis response helps you stay organized and get back on track and to communicate. So the Oklahoma Center for Nonprofits released a really good document called Going Forward, Best Practices and Considerations for Nonprofit Reengagement. And the thing about, when you say crisis response plan, I know when I've done them before, the first time I ever did a crisis response plan, when I heard that, it sounded completely overwhelming. But there are so many resources available out there, and as small nonprofit organizations, we've got to, I'm the single employee for my organization, and thank goodness to my volunteers and my wonderful board of directors, I don't have to do all the heavy lifting on my own. But as nonprofits, we learn to be very, very resourceful, and we learn to beg, borrow, and steal from anybody we possibly can. So I found this guide. If you click on the link, and these will be available, this PowerPoint presentation with all the links to everything we're going to discuss today will be available to you. I can email it to you, or we can make sure you get all the information. But as you're thinking about a crisis response plan, I don't want you to have a heart attack about, oh gosh, I have no idea what that entails. What I want you to do is reach out and use the resources I've shown you. And, certain parts of each one of these are going to apply to your organization and certain parts are not. So I want you to take a look at this guide and have an idea on it. Basically, it's 24 pages, but it gives you a matrix on how and where to adjust your operations to keep you safe, keep your stuff moving forward. The other great thing it does is it offers sample plans for different sectors, say the arts, for instance. The Arts Council has it's a one-page sample plan on how they address different things going, different items going through reopening and bringing their employees back safely, and having people back into your art gallery. So use these as a resource and templates to develop. It's pretty common sense most of the time, but honestly, having it written down and having it available to your staff and to your board will protect you and will protect the health and safety of those around you. So one thing everybody has to remember is that you cannot over communicate your procedures on what you are doing to keep your board and staff and volunteers and patrons safe. Post your cleaning protocols everywhere. Post your mask guidelines everywhere. Any other safety precautions, post those everywhere. That means your physical building, that means on your website, that means sending it out through social media. Just don't assume that everybody knows and everybody knows what you're doing. A lot of that's one of the biggest barriers right now for travel is people are the uncertainty on what to expect when you get to your destination. So make sure once you've developed your safety protocol planning and went through it with your staff that you're posting it everywhere. The other thing is don't assume everybody understands hygiene. That I know that sounds crazy, but I've read a lot of articles where it seems like common sense to wash your hands or to follow these certain guidelines, but not everybody understands that. So don't assume, just don't assume that everybody does and over communicate it, even if it seems very basic information. The other resource I want to share with you is this is a free online resource, because these are all free resources that I'm sharing with you, and if they have a cost associated with them, it's minimal. But the other online resource that I found very useful for my organization is it's called Category 1 Consulting Crisis Response Plan. And you can see this one, it's a little hard to see, but they have a matrix, a timeline matrix that you go through an initial, and it gives you a step-by-step guide for everything you can do to create a document that addresses anything that could possibly go wrong within your organization. So it's staff safety and security is the first one. Financial resources. What kind of financial resources are you going to need to keep your organization operational? What are how are the costs of having additional PPE, personal protective equipment, and sanitizing, and what is that going to cost you? How's that going to affect you financially? How does a disaster affect your programs and services? And you don't have to use everything on these guidelines, but basically what you do is you go in and go to Category 1 Consulting, you kind of type in the deadlines on what this stuff is, and it prints it off for you, or it saves it for you in a format that you can go back and modify it and pick and choose what you want out of there that's applicable to your organization. So like I said, don't reinvent the wheel. Not everything applies, but between using a couple of these resources, like the previous one we looked at, the best practices and considerations for nonprofit reengagement and this crisis response plan. Putting those together is going to keep you operational. So that's vitally important. Down to, you know, are you setting aside time to clean your office? Do you have maybe you implement a clean desk policy where things have to be tidy and neat. You know, we're not eating and drinking, or there's a mask policy, but those are definite things to consider as we begin re-engaging with our volunteers and with our patrons moving forward. So now that we kind of talked about the technical side of reopening and keeping your staff and keeping your board and your volunteers safe and communicating that, and then further communicating that out, let's talk about some tools for engagement. How we're doing things so differently. Case in point, today we have an online conference. Traditionally, I would be standing in front of you and engaging with you, and we'd be talking back and forth. But this is a different time, and we have to figure out how to engage with the folks that mean the most to us, which are our donors and our visitors, our customers. So I'm going to go through several slides here with some tools for engaging folks in your work. First and foremost, if you're a nonprofit, 501c3 organization, I want you to check on TechSoup, TechSoup.org. What is TechSoup? TechSoup itself is actually a nonprofit organization that provides technical support and technical tools to other nonprofits, and typically at a highly discounted rate. So where, you know, the Microsoft Office suite might cost you, you know, $300 and some on the shelf at Office Depot, or if you ordered it straight from the organization, if you apply through TechSoup and you get a membership with them free, they are able to provide that type of software, hardware, including laptops, all of those things. They're able to provide that as at a reduced rate. So it makes it more affordable for our nonprofits to stay engaged. So hopefully we'll go through. This is just a resource for you to find some of the next things I'm going to talk about that are going to encourage, you know, they're going to help you remain engaged with your board and your volunteers and patrons. And they're all online technical support stuff that is going to help you encourage physical distancing, basically, and stay connected, but you're still able to physically distance. So I like the term physical distancing better than social distancing. Because the goal is to stay safe by physically distancing, but you know, we definitely shouldn't socially distance. We want to stay engaged. So work is too important, and I'm hoping that these will be some good resources for you to reach your clients. Additionally, on TechSoup also, I've heard, you know, some of our more rural areas are having issues you know, with connecting to Wi-Fi and staying up to date, but through TechSoup, they even have tools and tips and tricks and training for access to, that includes access to high-speed internet when Wi-Fi connections aren't available. So make sure and check that out. Make sure to get your organizations registered with TechSoup, and always check their pricing on different types of software or hardware and internet connection. So first, tools for engagement. Obviously, Zoom. It's kind of become a household term for so many of us who are working remotely, and for those of us who are helping our children return to school, maybe not physically, maybe in a virtual manner. So that's what we're doing today. The Zoom platform is obviously an online audio and web conferencing platform. That's what we're on today, and it's easy to use. The great thing about it is it can be used on desktops and mobile devices, and I'm definitely not a technology person. So this pandemic for me has been an incredible learning experience as far as the various tools available for keeping connected. Although it's taken me a while to get used to seeing myself on screen, Zoom has kind of been my jumping off platform for my organization and how I am keeping up with my constituents, with my patrons, and with the folks across my region. It can be used mobily. You don't have to have the Zoom app if you're not hosting the meeting. You can turn the camera and audio features on and off, so that allows you to kind of come in and out. And the other great thing about Zoom is it's free for up to 100 participants for up to 40 minutes. So if you've got a group that you're working with and it's under 100 participants and you want to do a 40-minute meeting, there's no charge for you. You sign up, get an account, and away you go. You can continue to participate in the free version of that. If your meeting goes over 40 minutes, you can check out, check back in with the same group and continue to have access to that tool for free of charge. The next package up is for unlimited minutes, meaning you can host a meeting or a conference or whatever you're trying to communicate to for $14.99 a month, and that you can have a 3-hour meeting on Zoom if you'd like. So this has been a really great tool. It's been Zoom has been fantastic for staying in communication, especially for me personally. When you've got a broad territory that you cover, getting face-to-face with folks is sometimes difficult when you have to drive 2 to 3 hours. But the Zoom takes the travel time out of it. It helps us stay connected. The next basic one is if you don't have a Google account, you need to get one for your organization. Google.com, and you access the app in the upper left corners, and there's great features over there. So I've always been a Microsoft person. I've always used Word and Excel and Outlook to kind of communicate, but in recent years, I've found through working on my own and working for a nonprofit that I can save a lot of money by using the Google suite of tools, suite of applications. So the applications within the Google account make it possible to create documents, spreadsheets, and slide presentations, much like a Microsoft Office suite would do, but it also allows you to store these documents and access them from anywhere. And it allows you to share access to the documents so multiple people can work from the same document at the time. This eliminates the need for expensive servers or complex processes to be able to share the work that you're doing. And it also includes, helps your volunteers and your board stay engaged with the work you're doing, so that you can share that account information, share it across there, get feedback, and work on a team without ever even physically being around one another. So that's a great free resource. I know a lot of us have personal Google accounts, but having one for your organization can really minimize expense and help you if you're not working in the office. The next thing I want to talk about is another tool for engagement, Google Hangouts. It is part of the Google suite of services. It's part of the applications within your Google account. Oh, and I forgot to mention previously, if you don't have a Google account and you haven't figured out how to do that, there's a really great tutorial listed here that will give you a step-by-step tutorial for creating an account and accessing all the tools. So Google Hangouts is also a messaging service that allows you to send direct messages, video or voice chats, and carry on conversations with individuals or a group of people even. You can hold a group chat of up to 150 people. So what's kind of cool about this is group chats are a way to engage people. So we're all at home, we're all working, but there's no reason your organization can't have kind of a forum per se, a conversation on what you're doing and how important your work is, or if you're a tourist attraction, how you're using, what your organization is doing. So this is a good way to engage people. Group chats, kind of like just hanging out with your friends. You can use it on your desktop or mobile device, and it does sync between devices, and you can turn any conversation into a group call where you get on conference call with up to 10 people. So the premium right now version, so many of these tools for engagement, these companies have recognized that their products are being used at a record rate. So a lot of them are offering discounts for a while. So the premium, Google Hangouts is typically free, but the premium, which adds up, additional features, is free through September 30th. So if you're thinking about trying it, I'd suggest get on this month and see if it's a platform that works for you. The great thing is that the premium will allow up to 250 participants per call, and you can live stream what you're doing for up to 100,000 viewers. So kind of back to my Cowboy Tim at the National Cowboy Hall of Fame Museum. Maybe your attraction, maybe you've got something fun going on and maybe you want to live stream it. It's a great way to get the word out on what you're doing with your organization. Next platform is Microsoft Teams. It's similar to Hangouts, but if you're still a Microsoft person, then maybe this is the one for you. They have a communication platform as well called Microsoft Teams. The great thing about this is it integrates everything that you have kind of in, if you're running Outlook or Microsoft 365, it integrates everything, so you can just continue to work from that platform. The free version, there's a free version, unlimited chat and search, built-in online meetings, and audio and video calls for individuals, groups, and full team meetings. And then it also allows you file storage, so you can share documents across the platform. So if you're thinking about going this route, don't forget, like I said, don't forget to check that TechSoup. You can probably get it for a highly discounted rate. I've used Microsoft Teams when we were developing. I worked with a county here in Northeast Oklahoma when the pandemic first started on. We pulled all of our stakeholders together in a Microsoft Teams format in order to come up with a response plan for how to help small businesses in our community with recovery after everything had kind of shut down. So it worked really slick. We were able to work together across that platform within the same tools and hold those meetings and stay engaged. The next tool I want to talk about is Dropbox, and it's basically just you can copy your files and access them from anywhere later. Just makes things easier. It's great for backup because most of us are working on the computers, and even if we're not in a pandemic state or a national crisis, this is a good tool just to make sure if your computer crashes. I know if you're like me, we nonprofits, we tend to scrimp by on and hold on to our computers and our expensive hardware as long as we can. But having a backup of all the data you have is highly important. So the great thing about this too is you can move photos and files from mobile devices just using the app. The free version does not have the Smart Sync feature, but the plans start at $9.99 a month. And then there's a great resource for a tutorial. I like this Dropbox feature personally for my organization because when I'm out and about, even if I'm in my car and I'm physically distancing from people, but I'm working in Northeast Oklahoma, I love to take pictures. And pictures are a great form of communication, especially through our websites and our social media accounts. So I like it because I can take pictures from my phone and then automatically sync them into my computer and incorporate them in the work that I'm doing to promote our organization and the projects that we're working on. Of course, the next ones, if you don't have a Facebook account, if you don't have social media, it's vitally important that you do. People are viewing and looking at your organization probably more now so than ever from afar. So keeping people in tune and plugged in with what you're going on, posting about the work you're doing, how important it is, posting about your event and your attraction is highly, highly important. So, and it's just one of many. Facebook is a pretty popular one, but there's also Instagram and there's also Snapchat and those other platforms that you can cross communicate. So it's useful communicating. And the other great thing about Facebook is you can start a fundraiser on Facebook or sell your products. It's a great platform for doing so. On their tutorial and their course offerings, I love Facebook because it's ease of use, and because the platform offers so much support, technical support for how to use it most effectively. The whole goal is to drive people to your website, get them involved in what you're doing, and be able to communicate. So the training that's provided by Facebook, it's easy, it's free. And by clicking on the link down here for the course offerings, you can get a really good sense on how exactly to use the business features or the organizational features of your Facebook account. So, 5 steps that they even offered this that I thought was really cool when I was looking at it. They had a little series on 5 steps you can take today. Number 1, to stay safe and informed. We talked about how that communication is key on what you're doing to keep folks safe. Update important information. Maybe you have, your crisis response plan warrants you to shut your office because maybe somebody has come into contact with COVID. You can update important hour changes or important protocol changes in an instant. You can keep engaged with your customers on what you're working with and what you're working on. You can actually bring your business online. You can set up, donation Facebook page, ask for donations, do a fundraiser, and you can ask for support or flip that and actually offer support to promote your organization. So that's just one aspect of social media. There are several others, and through that coursework, if you click on that link and start looking at their coursework, they'll teach you how to integrate your Facebook account with your Instagram account, so you're not spending all day just on social media and posting and keeping everything update. You can actually plan out your posts, spend a block of time on what you want to post, and set a timer for when those release and how they release across multiple platforms. So I'd encourage you to really take a look at that. It's just a totally new way of doing business now, and it's important that we learn about all the free tools and the ease of access and how to use those tools. Finally, one I want to talk about is SignUp. This one I just recently discovered, and it's fantastic because it's a great way to engage volunteers and keep it organized. For example, I learned about SignUp. SignUp Genius is what it's called, but signup.com is where you go. I've learned about this through my daughter's athletic organization, who she's on a team of 35 kids, and each one of those 35 children have, grandmas, grandpas, moms, dads, and we're constantly doing fundraising to support the athletics program she's involved with. So you get that many people going in an organization, and you can't actually meet to plan events or organize groups. This is a great tool to help organize that. This is a great way to engage your volunteers, because you could ask for volunteers, and you go and you set the protocol, you can raise money, you can find supplies. It's really easy to use, and it avoids duplications. So the other example on this was, I think somebody said they used it for their church potluck. They had a large congregation, and everybody needed to bring a certain dish or something, but they were able to efficiently and effectively ask for volunteers and specify what they needed. So another great tool for engagement right there. So what's next? We reviewed a few of the most popular technological tools available for low to no cost to help your nonprofit engage with the world, whether it's tourism or not. We want to stay engaged. So, and on top of holding meetings and communicating with your staff and board, these tools are meant to give you virtual solutions to your most urgent issues. Like I said, a lot of us are facing those most urgent issues on raising funds right now. Two listed above are just examples of start thinking about how your organization, what your issue is, and what platform you can use to help solve your problem. So for example, and this is just to get the creative juices flowing on how you may be able to apply some of these tools here. Say your major fundraising 5K run has been canceled. We've seen that happen quite a bit, right? So what you can do is turn that around, and I've seen this happen. I've seen organizations doing it. And what you can do is turn that around and host a virtual 5K. You have volunteers help host a Zoom Fit Camp. I have a friend who owns a small business, and through the pandemic, when her gym was shut down, she owned a fitness gym. She did Zoom training classes, and it worked really good. It's like people stayed engaged with her. Another issue is food insecurity rising in your community. Promote a food drive using SignUp. Drive it through social media. Call to action. And that's another good example. And then the last one I've seen is an Instagram scavenger hunt for downtown Eureka Springs. They have a virtual scavenger hunt. They provide the clues, and participants need to sign up, and they go take pictures and post their pictures to Instagram, and it promotes the community. It does the promoting for itself, but it keeps people engaged with what's going on in downtown Eureka Springs, and it's free. The winner of the scavenger hunt gets a trip to Eureka Springs, so it's a win-win for all. But in conclusion, we've all had to kind of learn new ways to do things to keep our organizations going, and it's been hard. But the silver lining is learning new ways to engage with our customers or donors is that ultimately these tools will make us more flexible. They'll strengthen our ability to showcase what we're doing, and they also increase efficiency and to allow us to reach beyond what we thought we knew about our traditional audiences. Taking these steps and learning some of the tools that I've shared with you today will strengthen our organizations. So with that in mind, does anybody have any questions?
I don't see any questions coming in at this time. We've got a couple minutes left. Just want to thank you, Lisa, for taking the time to present today. I want to thank everybody that joined us for taking the time to watch. We know this is a different time for everyone. The information, I know I took a couple screenshots of some things that your slides came up that I learned from the presentation. So again, thank you very much for taking your time out to present to us all.
Sure. It looks like Mike just asked a question. Is
Okay.
the slideshow is available? And yes, I put the slideshow available in a format with the live links in it. So I'll get that out to you. I'll work with Brian to make sure anybody who's a participant that wants the slide deck can have it. And you'll be able to go through there instead of trying to dig through and find the links for it. There's all the tutorial links, all the links to the documents on there, that resource guide from the Oklahoma Center for Nonprofit. So I'll make sure Brian has a copy and can get the slide deck to you.
Yeah, I do have a copy that Lisa sent me prior to this. And what we're going to do is these presentations will be up on the same website. They're being recorded, so they'll be up on here for a few months. And we can actually share documents within the presentations in the discussion part or the description part of the presentation, so we can upload it there as well as email it to anybody that wants it.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Jeanette. I hope I wasn't too techie for you. Like I said, I'm not a technical person myself, but having these challenges as a nonprofit and an organization that is focusing on driving tourism in Northeast Oklahoma, I thought just getting all the information in one spot might be beneficial to some of y'all, because it's taken me months to learn how to pull this stuff together and to put it into practical use. And honestly, I was pretty terrified just starting out, but I've gotten a comfort level through the tutorials that I've used and moving forward and working with the tools that are available.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. We got 1 minute left, so we just want to say thank you, everybody, for coming, and thank you, Lisa, for being with us and presenting.
Thank you very much. You all have a good week.